All right, we're taping this. It is almost 2:30 Pacific time on Tuesday. So if anything happens with Kyrie Irving or Ben Simmons over the next 7 to 8 hours, don't blame us. We are going to try to not talk about them as much as we possibly can. But as we go through over-unders, every year we pick our over-unders. FanDuel has the totals. We go over, we go under. Every year I kill you guys. We may as well start there. It's been a shellacking every year.
Kill?
Kill.
He's dead wrong about
It's been a murder.
I thought it was pretty close between you and I last year.
Now I remember it as a complete domination. So
I
can remember
one
how
more
I won.
win. We both had really good records. I think you had one more than I did.
I remember it as 10.
This is what a CEO does. He's got CEO memory.
No, this is what people do is if they're in charge and they have a good year, they let you know.
That's
and
right.
then when they don't, it was a fluke and it's never mentioned.
That's right.
One year I was 19-11. I'm jinxing myself because I actually.
Oh, were you? Tell us more about it.
I had I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out this year. Usually I like to go top heavy, and then with the lower class, I'll usually go under.
Aggressive tops?
Yeah, this year I'm thinking more the middle class could be a little inefficiency, but we'll start with Brooklyn. So Brooklyn, over under 56.5. minus 195 to win the division.
I mean, it feels disrespectful. You're jumping right over Atlanta. The alphabet begins with A. Oh, you're doing it by the totals.
Yeah, I'm doing it by division this year.
Oh,
so we get a little more context
Christ.
of how teams are lumped together.
All right.
They're minus 195, the Brooklyn Nets, to win their division. Plus 105 for the conference. Plus 210 to win the title. When we do the over-unders, I'm going to ask you guys a question as a little table setter before we actually make our picks. This year, Russillo. The question was, are they better off just telling Kyrie to go away? And now we've seen today, they're basically telling Kyrie to go away until he gets vaccinated. Is this a better outcome for them? Is it just better to have this soap opera wiped away for them?
I like the tactic without knowing what the conclusion is, but I thought it was really telling because we kind of just sat here and be like, I guess they're going to let him do this. And it felt like, hey, if you're not all in, this is how we're going to handle this right now. So I don't know if that motivates Kyrie to get the outcome that they want. You know what I'm saying? But I still think they're so good. Like, seriously, if they had two of the three guys, they probably won the title last year.
House, what do you think?
Totally agree with all of this. And I think it's a net positive because it just takes all of the energy that you have to expend dealing with something that doesn't help you on the basketball court off the table.
I also think that they didn't have Patty Mills last year. And Patty Mills, he's not an all-star, but he's clutch. You can throw him in big games, and he's a little bit of a security blanket. And also, if you know Kyrie's not coming back, you're going to get a buyout guy in February. Now, I don't know what Kyrie's end game with this.
So we're starting with Kyrie, though.
Well, no. I just I think that's why it's so hard with the over-under because we're taking out one of their three major stars, and now they have no injury room. 57-25 in this world where we're resting guys constantly. And we talked about this. I can't remember one of the podcasts I did a few months ago talking about do the over-unders. Oh, when you and I, we got the initial numbers. Are the over-unders just like 2-3 wins lower now because of all the resting? Because in the old days, you would say Nets, 60-win team, 60-22. That's just how it goes. If you're one of the best three teams, you're winning 60. Now it's like, I don't know. Maybe 57 is the new 60. What do you think, House?
I agree with this. And are we getting to our selections on the number?
We're doing it right now.
I like a tiny over. I mean, I just think 57 is a good number. When Harden played last year, they had an incredible record. I think they won it close to a 70% clip. And, that gets you to the over. Obviously, they have injury risk and rest risk. But, we saw from that playoff run, a very compelling case that even one of those guys is enough to make them competitive with the team that can win the whole NBA. So I'm fine with like a tiny over.
Okay, so just to jump in though. All right, think about this. Last year, they played 8 games together, and they still won at a 67% clip. And remember how bad the defense was? Remember they had those games against Cleveland, and you're going like, oh, this is a problem. And it was like, none of it mattered. Like all of the data that we got from them through the regular season didn't mean anything. And then when it felt like they were all going to be ready to go, I can't get over that Bucks Nets series and how close it was and how we felt about Milwaukee going up into like game 4 or game 5. And you're like, Durant still almost pulled this thing off with no Kyrie. And So I like the rest of the team. You're absolutely right, Bill, about the numbers coming in, because when you look at the totals, you're like, where are the highest totals? Because
the Bucks, spoiler alert, the Bucks were like 55 around there. And it's like, how is that not a 60-win team?
Your whole like 30-team approach on the over-unders is exactly like, I kept looking at those top numbers going, maybe the rest thing burns you, but I feel aggressive with the top teams.
Yeah.
So even with all of these concerns, I don't know what numbers mean. I don't know what they still finished 22nd in defense last year, and they were one game out of the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So I'm over the 56.5.
We should mention they added Patty Mills. They Blake Griffin a whole season. Millsap's here. LaMarcus Aldridge.
Millsap's free.
Yeah.
He just went there.
Right. You watch college way more than I do. House used to watch college, then he just kind of got old. This Cam Thomas, is he actually going to play for them, or is this like the preseason foreplay, basically, where we get excited about preseason guys, and then it's like, oh, remember when we got excited about Cam for 5 minutes?
If he does the one thing that he did in college, and that's just shoot, he's going to be wide open all the time.
Irrational confidence guy for
absolutely.
7 minutes a half.
Yeah. So whatever you think of confidence, it's him. Now, he doesn't like to do a lot of the other things, but he can do those things. I even like Sharp. I always think about Brown in this role where even if there were other teams that were interested, it's like whatever you saw with the Nets is not the guy you're going to get, because he's playing 6'5" center and all these cuts are wide open because you have to worry about all these other guys, including Joe Harris.
I am on the fence now between over and under, because I thought of one other thing. What if they trade Kyrie and get somebody good for him? Like, what if they traded him to San Antonio and got, I don't know, Murray back and 2 contracts?
How fantastic would it be if they traded him back to Cleveland for Sexton? Isn't Sexton on the block?
I don't know if I would do that if I was Cleveland.
Yeah, I know.
How do you trade for Kyrie if you're anybody right now?
That's right.
Well, you do it if you're the Spurs and you have a roster that, you don't have an A-lister on the team and you really have no
I meant
roadmap.
Like realistic ones, because these Spurs trades that we've heard, I still need to know who the Spurs are giving any team in any deal. But
I'm saying, if you're the Nets, could you get Murray and 2 contracts for Kyrie and you call it a day and you don't have to deal with him anymore?
I don't think you do that.
Send him to Texas. He could play every game there.
It's too early. But the crazy thing is I think it's kind of like the Simmons thing with Philadelphia. Like, if Ben hadn't come back, I still think that team was winning a ton of regular season games.
Yeah.
And I think Brooklyn can still win a lot of regular season games, even with the Kyrie thing being probably the worst it'll be. We'll see.
I'm going to go a whiff under, only because Durant put a lot of miles on himself last year. 33 years old. The Harden thing, who knows? He's older too. There's a lot of moving pieces. I think the East is better, and I think they're going to be right around that number. So I'm going to go a smidge under. I don't feel great about it. Next team, Philly. Over under 51.5. Plus 260 to win the division. 9-1 to win the conference. House. Plus 440 for the play-in game. You could bet on Philly to be 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed, plus 440 on FanDuel. I thought that was fun.
I don't like that.
Here's my question. I'll give this to you, House, before we do the over-under. Have we ever spent more time talking about a less impactful player than Ben Simmons? I will give you some of the other nominees. They had to be a star. Boogie Cousins, Kevin Love, Derek Coleman, Stephon Marbury, Pete Maravich, Walt Bellamy. Those are the 6 I came up with. Yeah, you can throw Kenny Anderson in there, but I feel like I was having more Kenny Anderson conversations than normal people. I was so in. I had so much Kenny Anderson stock.
That Zon Tabak sweetener.
Well, we didn't know we were getting somebody who was having some issues. But yeah, Georgia Tech Kenny, I felt like that was a lot of our conversations in College House was just... Anyway, Ben Simmons, does he deserve all the attention we're giving him?
Well, sure. Yes, of course he does.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's still impactful. Although out of all those names, I feel like we did spend a lot of time talking about Stephon Marbury. It might have been just us on the phone because the internet didn't exist then, really.
It wasn't in the same way.
Couldn't get on the internet and talk about him, but I do feel like we talked a lot about Stephon Marbury.
I think Marbury is still the winner, Russillo, because he was like Slam magazine covers. Him and KG, they were the new Stockton and Malone. Then he's like, no, I'm out. Send me to the Nets. Nothing happens there. Flip for Kid. Has that 1 year with Amari. And it was like they beat the Spurs in that overtime game. It's like, oh, here we go. No, that didn't happen. Goes to the Knicks. Here we go. Savior. No.
Buyout Celtics.
Oh, here we go. They got Marbury? Missing piece. No. China? But it just feels like, I think Marbury is the winner, but I think it's a good conversation.
Of all the names you rattled through there, I mean, I have my own Boogie Cousins thing where I've just like, you guys that keep talking about him all the time. Like, I don't think you watch him, but it's not to this level. Marbury's the only one. It's a perfect example. The difference is there was a family dynamic with Marbury in the New York story that isn't there for Ben Simmons, where you have the clutch and the LeBron attachment to it. You know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, is Clutch going to be able to pull off something here unprecedented, getting him out of a place with 4 years left on a contract? And
the answer was no.
The answer was no.
Wait, how much money am I losing?
That's right.
Yeah, I think Maravich is underrated for this topic.
We're not the historians that you are.
I didn't have Maravich in my top 75. Spoiler alert. I'm probably the only one.
Wow.
It's like, look, I judge people by, were they good for teams that succeeded and won playoff games? And he has an absolutely horrific playoff record. He only played for 9 years. He had no memorable moments, but was just this really fun, amazing player. But it's like, at some point, does winning matter or it doesn't? It doesn't. When you go 30 and 52 every year and over again, your team sucks, that should matter at some point.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
matters.
so there you go. That's why I have Maravich one. Over under for Philly. I am just a hard under on this because too much weirdness. Plus, I don't trust Embiid for 6 straight months. As great as he is, I have him as one of my 9 most important guys, 10, 11. But do I get 60 games from him? Do I get 62? The Simmons thing is too bizarre for me, and I cannot see this team going 52 and 30. So I'm going under with them too, House. What do you have?
I'm going to take a tiny over just because I'm a glass half full guy. I prefer to think about what Daryl Morey is going to be able to pull off in terms of this thing ultimately. I think we're probably a full 2 months away, but they demonstrated last year they have the ambition to be one of the top 4 teams in the NBA, and they have the talent right now to be in that conversation. If the Simmons thing gets resolved in any way that feels like a tread water even for them, then the over is the number. They were the number 1 seed in the East, and they have a formula for winning basketball. The only thing that holds them back when we get to the playoffs will be Doc Rivers, but that's a conversation for the
and
playoffs.
Ben Simmons,
for next
two Achilles.
Year. Well, no, Ben Simmons, I'm not anticipating will be on the team come playoff time in 2022.
The only thing that held me back was Seth Curry's wife is a huge part of our Ringer reality TV show now, Callie Curry. Great job by her. So
another
this
reason
is not
for the
a pick
over
against the Curry family. When we
I'm
get to the Warriors, there's going to be a lot of Curry love for the Curry family. So Russillo, what do you have? Under or over?
I still think they're going to win a lot of games throughout the Ben Simmons thing. But it is, like House said, it's 2 different conversations. How do you feel about them in the regular season? Well, last year they're 1 seed. They wanted a 680 clip. 52 and 34 is a 634 clip. So, even these guys, which we've talked about for years now. And I thought it was kind of funny too when they were like, hey, they flew out. The funny thing is the Sixers at the very top were just not afraid about this confrontation. Like,
no,
right, cool.
They were welcoming it.
Like, all right, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. Okay.
Daryl had all of Hong Kong and China and he had that whole thing where the entire internet came after him for 6 months. The owner certainly doesn't care. And Doc Rivers isn't
the owner, from what I heard, like was almost looking forward to it. It was like, oh, okay, really? You want to do this?
Which? Josh Harris or Rubin? Which one?
I'm not going to name names.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I know Josh Harris is up for the fucking fight. He's the founder of Apollo.
Yeah, Doc Rivers isn't going to care. And the Philly fan base certainly isn't going to be like, oh my God, what are we doing with Simmons?
In a weird way, I admire everybody, though. Throughout it. Like, I admire that it felt like the first time that a GM just went, nah, I'm not doing it. And the ownership was absolutely like, yeah, we don't care. Like, all right, fine. And then I think there was a story where Ben Simmons thought he was going to get that second installment before. And then it was like, oh, you're not getting that one either. And you're like, oh, shit. Now that just cost me $8 million bucks.
Oof.
So wait, maybe this isn't the greatest idea.
He's like, wait, that's like 8 private jets.
But it's just another lesson in like how much the noise doesn't matter. It's the great thing of the many great things about Belichick. But it's just like, I'm not going to worry about all that stuff. And people are like, oh, you can never bring him back. You can never bring him back. He can never be there. And Daryl's like, all right, I don't want to trade him for nothing. And he's going to come back. We're going to figure it out. And then on the other side with Clutch, you're like, oh, you guys got worked. It's like, no, try to get our guy out. With 4 years left, and they didn't budge. And another GM probably would have. And those guys didn't budge. But when they talked about trying to make it work, what I thought was hilarious was the solution was to play together less. As we've all been banging our heads against the wall, going, it just doesn't work at the close of those 4 to 6 minute stretches of the playoffs.
Yep.
We've seen it so many times. I know what the plus minus is. I know what all those things are. But those are the times you evaluate everything. And it was like Doc emphasized to playing them together less. You'd be like, well, that'll fix all your problems. the fundamental problem we will accept, and we will make sure the minutes are allotted that way, except when we have to win something. None of that stuff matters to the regular season. I have a slight under, even though I still think this team could end up as a 1 seed.
So I was the only over.
Yeah, I'm going. So 2 unders, 1 over. I disagree. I think Clutch handled this horribly. They cost their guy $1 million, and people think less of them. I think that's a loss.
I think it's all temporary. I think it's incredibly temporary stuff that's bad headlines. That
some of the stuff that got leaked about he doesn't feel like it can ever work with Embiid again. He was in the wrong mental state.
They did. That's exactly right. They had no leverage, so they tried to manufacture it.
They were never going to have leverage. It was poorly handled. I'll be interested to see where he goes.
It's like somebody who gets arrested on a plane and they go, hey, the meds and a little scotch.
That's it.
I don't know what happened.
Exactly
and
right.
They're like, actually, no one
didn't realize those little bottles packed so much punch.
But then they're like, we never served you. And you're like, I give it a shot.
Well, House is right, though. These things do have a way of just being completely fine a month later. I don't know if this will happen here because from a Philly fan standpoint, I think it's going to be, I'm not going to say impossible because nothing's impossible, but close to impossible for him to win that fan base back. I don't even know what his month of stellar play would have to look like for the Philly fans to be like, you know what? We were wrong. We're actually back in on you.
But remember, everybody's selfish. And if he's good and it lets Philly fans think all of a sudden wait, maybe we got something. I mean, Philly fans have been lying to themselves about this combo for half a decade.
It's
all
true.
Right. So if he comes out and tears it up and they split the minutes and he looks good, I mean, he's going to be in great shape.
But you know what's going to happen if he has one good game? Trade him. This is it. There's 20 trades. Bill Simmons triple-double. We got to get rid of him. There's things that worry me about this team. One of which was even downgrading from Dwight Howard to Andre Drummond. Did you see Andre Drummond in the preseason? Is he now 370 pounds? He looks like
thick
Andre the Giant in the late 80s. Like you watch him walking around, he can't move anymore.
It's funny to me that you call that a downgrade.
Yeah, but I thought Dwight Howard had like valuable regular season minutes for them. He was at least protection during the 20 games Joel's not going to play. And now it's like they're going to have this weird Andre Drummond thing. He can't shoot free throws either. Putting him, who's somehow a worse free throw shooter than Dwight Howard, with Ben Simmons, who can't shoot free throws at all. And I don't know. I think the East is better. I think this is an under for me. The Boston Celtics, over under 45.5. Plus 850 for the division. A little sneaky with this Kyrie thing. It's like now they're one KD injury away from maybe. Plus 140 for the playing game house. I know you're going to make like 20 playing bets. 50-1 for the title. My question for you, Russillo. Are Tatum and Brown the best under 25 combo in the league? I did all the research. So here are the 3 other nominees. Because some people are 25 and up. Ayton and Booker are both under 25. Zion and Ingram. And Luka, and you can have anyone else on the Mavs. Those are your 3 points. But Tatum and Brown, it was more of a slam dunk for them to be the answer than I realized.
Yeah, because I still think there's some stuff where as much as we fell in love with Ayton, there's still going to be a little bit of Ayton inconsistency. I think we all kind of romanticize about what the ceiling for Tatum and Brown can be because they keep improving all the time. But the real ceiling is going to be what can they be? Forget the numbers. Like, can you guys start winning some of these games and show that toughness? So, I don't think it's a terrible selection of the two. It's just that Doncic is just another level than every guy that you named.
House?
That's true.
Who would you rather have? I just gave you those 4 pairings. One of the choices can be Luka and Jalen Brunson if you want.
No, it's Tatum and Brown to me as well. Although I'm rooting for the Phoenix guys to close the gap a little bit.
The Ayton thing's a little unfair because he just was made to look bad by Giannis, who was having an out-of-body experience and
they had no
to a completely
depth.
other level. He had no backup center.
No one to help at all. I mean,
you had to be careful of foul trouble.
Because of the Saric injury.
Yeah.
Dario Saric.
Yeah, who knew?
Crucial.
I don't know that was going to be, it was a body.
Give him 6 fouls.
But that's it. It was a body. They didn't have another body.
That poor guy's been out of position since he came to the league. I don't know what his position is, but it's just.
Well, the Celtics, they had Schroeder, which was a steal. I didn't love the offseason until Schroeder happened.
Schroeder's a steal.
I liked it because I thought it was
Schroeder
smart.
For $6 million. I mean, he was the third best player in the Lakers last year. Everybody, the Laker fans have tainted everyone on Schroeder. I'm not saying I was the most Giant fan,
the fans
but
tainted. I think he tainted himself.
I think the league not
He was
stepping up at any point, him having to take a 1-year deal wasn't just Lakers fans.
I agree.
do we know for sure he turned down the $84 million or whatever? Because I'm not convinced that ever happened.
Well, then
I don't
he
think it
needs
was
to
ever
say.
offered to
Then
him.
he
That's
needs to
right.
say
Yeah,
something about
he
it.
said something. He said that was never offered, that contract. I don't know why people keep saying that.
He did. Oh, I missed
Yeah,
that.
he
My
said
bad.
it.
We all missed it then.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
miss it because my new guy, Dennis Schroeder. My dad is just, he's calling him Dennis. He's out. It's like, I'm not even, he's calling him Dennis or
Schroeds?
the German guy. He's out. But yeah, so they have him, second year Pritchard, Al Horford. They turned Kemba's, semi-corpse into Al Horford, who at least
Well, and the
can,
pick.
Congratulations.
Al Horford looked okay on OKC last year. Like, he'll
Okay.
definitely be able to play. They have a lot banking on Time Lord, who they
Yes,
gave
they
a
do.
very tradable contract. We still have not seen him play 2 good weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nobody leads the league more in blocks that send them into a camera guy and they sprain something or hurt. Marcus is back. Wancho, they're a little excited about.
I've always liked
He's,
Wancho.
he's in an Adam Sandler movie. It might be the year of Wancho. And this 45.5. Now, don't call me Homer because last year I went under. I didn't like the look of last year's team. I actually like the 40. I think they're going to be good. The new coach, Bollinger, heard good things, and they feel like a 47-48 to me. So I'm going over, and I might even, could be a possible lock for me. What do you got, House?
They're not a lock for me. This one's a real tough one for me. I like them at 45 or 46. I have
You
so
have to pick,
far
unfortunately.
gone over with my first two, so I'm just going to say 45 and 37.
That makes
For
me
them,
feel
that's an
even better
under.
about the Celtics
That's an
season.
under
This is
for
the
the
best thing that happened since the Schroeder contract. What do you have, Russillo?
I went into it thinking under because I immediately can name a handful of teams that I like better in the East.
Yeah.
But I still think this team is pretty good.
Yeah.
And if you go 1 through 6, 1 through 7, if Williams is healthy, you've got something here and you've got some adaptability. Whether you can go Horford big, you could actually play him as Al Horford always should have been a power forward. He played center almost his entire career. I think Smart getting the contract helps. I mean, he's going to have his moments. I think that the market for him in the trade market was more limited than I think people would ever realize. And so it was like, you know what? Do the extension. He's still a good player. You know what I mean? I know you and I probably feel like we're perceived as guys more down on Smart, which is fine.
It's a way better situation this year because they have multiple ball handlers now.
Yeah. And
you want him off the ball versus like being Oscar Robertson, basically.
I think Neesmith actually showed some signs of a pulse at the end of last year. So when you
Oh.
add it all up, you go, hey, there's a version of this. But it really comes down to one thing that we talked about last year. They were a soft fucking team.
Yep.
And so what you hope is with a new coach who's saying the right things, that you get through to these guys and some stuff. Because it was funny. I was talking to some other people, like going back and looking at clips of some of the stuff they did as a team. And you're like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, there needs to be some kind of edge. And if they don't have it, then I'm going to be really freaked out because that'll kind of be, or maybe the personality of this team is just that.
You know who's going to give it to them is the coach. By all accounts, I think he's like a tough dude. I think Schroeder will help because he's a dick. And I mean that in a positive way. Like they needed like an agitator.
But
that
Tatum and
wasn't
Brown
smart.
kind of have to like,
One of
I
those
love
guys
those-
has to be a little
right.
tougher.
I need
I'm
a
with
little
you.
more edge
I think Neesmith might be tough too. What do you got, House?
because he's landscaped
And
growing
then
up.
Grant Williams, now that he's running the Players Association with CJ McCollum. I think that's just the leadership from that. House, what do you have?
You have a defensive anchor. You really, 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 really need Robert Williams to play
It's a high
60 games.
Yeah, it's a high ceiling team because of him, because of Neesmith. Like there's a scenario
Tristan
where
won't
a
be
bunch
out
of
there
things- Yeah,
anymore.
no
I
Tristan.
mean, that's a good thing, right?
And
I'm with you.
I don't think people understand.
Make a
We
joke.
talked about it. We talked about it in this pod a couple of times how bad Kemba was last year, and it's like I'm not shitting on the guy. He was just bad.
And even if he had nights where he like got 24,
he gave
you-
up 38,
he would get torched. The Grant Williams number that I saw, he's fouling 7 times per 100 possessions or something like that.
yeah, I'm
It's-
hoping we don't see a lot of
it's-
Grant.
It's too bad.
Also, Cantor's back.
limit
My
6.
dad's favorite Celtic of the last 10 years. Just loves those low post guys. My dad, when he sees Şengün, he's going to lose his mind. It's like, oh my God, Şengün backdowns. What is happening? My dad is just, he's the last person who believes in low post, drop steps, and jump hooks.
I want Alperin and Cantor to open up a big man camp where they only work on post moves and there's no other end of the court for defensive rotations.
It's fine.
There's
Half court.
Like we need to work on our footwork.
So Russillo, you went over or under?
I went over.
Okay, great.
Beantown.
That's a possible lock for me. All right, we're 3 in the books. We're gonna take a break. Come back with the Knicks. New York Knicks over under 41.5 plus 105 for the playing game. 7, 8, 9, or 10. You're basically getting even money. They have Kemba, who we just talked about, who I'm not a huge fan of. Great guy. Loved him to death. I just felt like he was playing on one leg. They signed Fournier, who came to the Celtics, immediately got COVID, and pretty much sucked for them. I don't know how much of that was his fault, but then was good in the Olympics. So some people are back on him. They re-signed Alec Burks, Rose, Toppin, maybe. Randall, lockdown. There's a Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel combo for them. But none of that is my question, Russillo. Here's my question. Is this team honestly trying to win in 2022? Or are they just laying the breadcrumbs for a Dame or Karl Anthony Towns trade? What do you think their purpose of this season was?
Okay, they've been linked to the Kentucky Louisville group with the way they've staffed. That we've brought this up before. Everybody get really mad when I brought up the Booker thing last year. But look, it looks like Phoenix is in a great spot. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But it's always going to be the Donovan Mitchell stuff. It's always going to be the Karl Anthony Towns. It's always going to be happening. But in the meantime, that doesn't seem to be what they're doing at all. Like they signed, they threw out a ton of contracts, again, short-term contracts. They have good depth. So for me to say, hey, they're just doing this all because they're going to get this free agent. You know how many teams do stuff where they're planning out 2-3 years ahead of time? What's the win rate on that? Is it 10%?
But maybe the new free agent is the guy who has 3 or 4 years left on his deal that you're banking on being unhappy. Seems to be the new free agent because there doesn't seem like there's any actual free agents anymore.
It hasn't happened yet. But you're right. I mean,
it happened with Harden.
The free agency, well, they only had a year plus with the option.
Right. So, but it's still, he was available under a contract.
But you are making a bigger point that's going around now. And that is when guys started doing the short deals with LeBron kind of, being the first guy to go, hey, let's go short. Let's get the opt-outs year to year. That was LeBron just basically keeping Cleveland. Like he felt like if I have you worried every single year, you have to give in. And it's like, I don't know if you needed to do that, but that was their approach. Now the thinking is everybody's just maxing out and now I'll just get mad. So planning for free agency and hoarding cap space was never that great of a plan before. It was totally overrated by all of us, the outside. Now it's like the worst plan.
I'm zagging. I think it was a good plan more than people remember.
For who?
It worked for the Celtics. They ended up getting Horford and Hayward back-to-back years. Hayward just got hurt. It worked for the Clippers. They ended up with Kawhi and the Paul George thing.
What about all the other teams?
It worked for the Lakers. They got LeBron. Yeah, there's 30 teams that didn't work for it. I'm just saying there are examples of where
I didn't say it was zero. I'm just saying
the Miami Heat culture.
Heat culture, but I mean, they were sitting there going, we got Giannis, we're going to get Giannis. And
where the things people seem to remember are like the Knicks getting Amari Stoudemire or the Bulls ending up with Boozer.
I'm talking about if you're a team other than like the handful of 4 or 5 going, I'm just going to wait. It just seems like this next generation of players is going, no, I'm going to take every single dollar. I'm not going to do short deals.
So the move is assets, shorter deals, which is kind of what the Knicks did. House, you think they're laying the breadcrumbs for a trade, or you think they actually think they can win the title with this team?
Both. I think they're doing both things. And by the way, the answer to your proposition, the teams you rattled off as examples of success, think about those markets and those teams, desirable markets and desirable teams. I mean, Boston has its issues market-wise, but in terms of the success of the franchise, Anthony Davis was not impressed by.
Kawhi wasn't. Paul George wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, other than those 3 guys. And probably 7 more.
Yeah.
So the Knicks.
But I think the Knicks are doing both.
Kyrie
they can do
wasn't.
both. I think they're very well positioned. Congratulations to New York Knicks fans.
Durant said no.
I think they're incredibly well positioned for Dame if Dame becomes available, which I don't think he will, versus the Sixers, where if you're Portland, I'm like, do I really want Ben Simmons?
I think
that's going to be our prize.
I think Portland would want Ben Simmons, but I mean the
Knicks package, if I could get RJ and I could get Toppin and I could get some picks, I'm taking that over Ben Simmons.
RJ really improved from 3.
I like RJ. If he's on the table, that's getting my attention. He's like 21 years old. I think he really gives a shit. I think that's a guy who's like, what am I not good at? I'm going to try to get better at it versus Ben Simmons, who's bad at the same things every year. I don't know.
So wait, you're saying in a vacuum you'd rather have RJ Barrett than Ben Simmons? Today?
No, I'm saying I would rather have a trade led by an RJ Barrett package. If I get Barrett and Toppin and some picks.
There's just not enough
Dame.
there for
Not
Dame
me.
right now. It's just not enough for Dame.
If he's available. I think Portland's going to be pretty good, as we're going to cover in part 2. House, 41.5 for the over. It's probably the toughest over on this entire board. They feel like they're going to, I think it's impossible for them to win 41.5, but if any team could, it's them. If they could finish 41.5 and 38.5, and for the first team in history to do that, it feels like the Knicks. I have a slight over for them because of Tibbs.
Yeah, that's all.
I think they have depth, which depth is going to be important, especially this year, because who the fuck knows what's going to happen. But they feel like they're in that 43 to 44 win range. What do you have?
Totally agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, there is going to be a regression. I don't think they're not going to win the same number of games as last year. I don't think they're going to be the 4 seed again this upcoming year. But they are going to play hard, and in the regular season,
Get great crowds.
that matters. Get great. Like, think about the enthusiasm for the Knicks at MSG. That's right.
Yeah.
Competitive team. They improved in the offseason. Yeah, I like their over. I don't understand why it came out so low.
Because Vegas is smart. Because I, in preparation for this, was like, I can't wait to see the Knicks number, and I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under. And the number came in, and you were like, yeah, they're on it. Because remember last year, they were the overachieving team.
That's right.
It was this amazing story. And
what
then
were they on, like a 48 win pace last year or something like
They
that?
won.
If you prorated it?
They were at a 569 clip. They were 41-31. So they were 10
Right.
over.
So that's
in a
like
shortened
basically
season.
48 and 34, 49 and 33 in a real
Seriously.
season.
Right.
That's a real record.
Totally. And yet they go into that Atlanta series, and I remember you and I, Bill, doing it, and I go, I don't know, because there were just series that jumped out at you. Like there was one, the more you dug into it, I go, hey, you know what's kind of funny with all the Milwaukee angst about the Heat? This series shouldn't even be close. Like what Miami's doing offensively, or more importantly, not doing, you're like, I don't know. And when you started doing like guy for guy, even though Randall's regular season numbers against Atlanta were absurd, you're just like, there's no way Atlanta's losing this series. None.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, with that success, I still wasn't that high on him, even though I respected it. So I thought they'd put it up at like 47 or whatever based on that win total and an improving roster. And they're basically saying 500. So I'm over now.
Yeah,
I'm over because this team's deep. And there's one number, every Knicks preview you read, it's always the same number. Their opponent shot 33.7% from three, lowest in the league. And the argument is it's not always defense. There's some randomness in that. But that number was trumpeted out there throughout halfway mark of the season, being like, this has to correct at some point. It actually didn't. So yeah, it's a scary number, but they're deep and they're basically saying 500. So I'll go over.
Fournier is going to be weirdly helpful to them. They didn't have any perimeter guy who could have the ball and you could run a play for them. And especially like even the last 3 minutes of a game where
Burks a little bit can get it going.
A little heat checky, but not.
Yeah.
Fournier can create a shot for himself or other. You might not always like the shot, but I really like Bullock. I thought he was good for them. But if it's a question of like what Fournier brings to the table for them, I thought that was important.
Yeah, and Fournier and Kemba are an improvement over Elfrid Payton and Bullock.
Well, yeah, that's true.
That's true.
The thing with Kemba, and I think he's not going to succeed for them, but quickly will get more minutes anyway. It'll all even out. It's a good risk. Kemba will have like his 2 week stretches where his knee's feeling good and he scores for them and people get excited. He's an unbelievable teammate.
He also, if he takes the training part of it a little bit more seriously than he did pre-bubble and everything. I know there's debates about it.
A little more seriously. He didn't take it seriously at all.
Yeah. So that might be a little bit of a kick in the ass, a wake-up call to him. Be like, look, I probably didn't give this the best effort the first time through, and this thing's lingered the whole time. So
the ceiling thing for them is Robinson, who just had 2 bad luck injuries last year. And if he can actually play real minutes and get to like 65 games combined with...
and they still have Kevin Knox.
The Bill Simmons Podcast, presented by Uber Eats. Uber Eats makes any game better. They got you covered with special game day deals throughout the NFL season, so you know you have something satisfying to look forward to, even if the games don't go how you expected them to go. Today, House and I had salads. We went super healthy. Uber Eats is It's just great. It's there for you. You time it. Usually the places they start opening, if you're on the West Coast time, around 11 o'clock, you get the food. No matter what goes down on game day, you can always enjoy the food. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.